really, I think you, the day in graduate, one picture, it's only got all the pictures. I can handle. Cold call.
Okay, it's 8 o'clock. I'm gonna call this work session to order. First off, I want to thank the cities for coming to meet with us this morning and express your concern. I have to read this script to the rule we're gonna go by today. So, thanks for coming, and this is an opportunity for the full board to discuss and hear from the cities regarding the law enforcement contracts. There will be no discussion on other items at this work session to ensure there's an appropriate opportunity for all the cities and the full board to talk specifically about law enforcement contracts. Anyone who would like to address the full board shall follow the following rules: must stand at the podium to speak. Just,
Sit at the
you're
table.
gonna sit right there. State your name and where you live and who you represent. State your comments regarding the city law enforcement contract. Each person that wishes to make a comment will have up to 3 minutes to do so. After 3 minutes, your time will be up. After 3 minutes, the chairman will call for the next person to comment. Each city will be asked to comment first. After each city has an opportunity, there will be a call for a second opportunities for the cities. They come up and speak twice. If time allows, after the cities have finished, any other person who wishes to comment to the full board about law enforcement contracts will have an opportunity. Following the same rules, up to 3 minutes, and when your time's up, the timer will sound. Okay, no action will be taken at this work session. There will be no poll or straw poll votes taken. Discussion will start with a review of the current timeline regarding the city law enforcement contract. Okay. So, do I read this review for this timeline?
You would like, it might be
Okay.
helpful.
So in 26, the county board timeline, June 2nd, the county board reviewed contract options at board meeting. Where we've reviewed them. The Public Safety Committee met with the cities to present options for contracts on June 3rd. June 16th, the county board work session regarding city law enforcement contracts. July 7th, county board meeting gained consensus on direction to move forward. And then August 4th, the board meeting formal direction so preliminary budget can be set. And in September, county board sets the preliminary budget. Okay. So what do we want to do next year? So we're asking cities to, one at a time, you can come up and give us your thoughts on your law enforcement contract. So who wants to start?
Okay, you can never work them. Anybody. Yeah.
You guys gonna draw straws, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Olson, City of Level Lake, City Administrator. I just got this last night at our meetings. I just have a couple of questions. Looks like this came from the county commissioners, correct? Your discussions. Okay. Well, I missed the last meeting with Troy and Dustin, I was on the phone. Sounds like it was pretty much a lot like the first discussion. The cities are all questioning the future of what we're paying to the county. And right now, the city of Level Lake's tax levy is just under 25% of our levy goes to law enforcement. And there comes a point in time where I have to recognize the dollars and what's going on in the city and other priorities the city has for funds. And I think we need law enforcement, but I think there's gotta be a happy medium. And, you know, you have, putting the whole budget on the county and getting rid of the law enforcement contracts. Has there been any numbers run on what impact that would have on the taxes or?
So we're not gonna start talking about numbers until July. Right now, we're focusing on the policy of what the right policy to do is. I know numbers will play a large role in it, but
Yeah.
we haven't released any of those yet.
Okay. The city is, again, don't let them talk for themselves, but the consensus is to look at the hours that we're contracting with and maybe, we can cut those hours. We want law enforcement. We aren't here to say we're gonna dump. We're not gonna do anything. We need law enforcement, but we've got to be at a happy medium established. And what I mean by that is our costs gotta go down. If we have to cut hours, you know, a couple hours a day, we aren't talking 50% cut. You know, we're talking, you know, 2 hours, 3 hours a day. I have to give credit to Jen. She's made some changes that we requested her to help us with. And she's doing that. And we couldn't get it anywhere with that request from your previous sheriff. And I appreciate that, Tim, and the city does. It's tough, you know. I'm sitting in the chair with the city, like you're sitting up there watching your budget. And it's tough for me to spend 25% of your levy for law enforcement. And, where we have other priorities right now that we're looking at. I'm not saying law enforcement shouldn't be a priority, but the presence is sometimes questionable in our minds in the city, and visibility. They aren't very visible public. They aren't public events. They don't talk to people. They don't walk up and down Main Street. Campground is a big deal. The presence at the campground isn't what it used to be. Weekends, we'd like them to go around slowly around the campground, not fast. Because Monday there was an officer out there and he just sped right through it. And we have a speed limit of 10 miles an hour and he was going way over that. And nobody showed up this weekend that I was told by our caretaker, you never saw law enforcement out there all weekend. And that's really one of our priorities in the summertime. Campground is full, it's 300, 400 people out there. And we're lucky we haven't had many issues the last few years. We've had someone just go driving along, you know, day and night, talk to people.
Okay,
I'm going,
yeah, but just to be clear though, the city, they can come back up here.
Yep, and we'll just, I was thinking maybe 6 minutes, the first round.
Yeah. So we want you to come back up, yeah, but we'll let the other towns talk for a little bit
I've
now.
got a couple other things though.
Okay,
That's fine.
another thing for the commissioners here, we want to speak up because in the back room, it's hard to hear us. So, we just want to speak up a little louder. So does, Rita, you want to come up? Barrett, you want to come up?
I'm Rita Rudy, I'm the city clerk for Barrett, and I live in Hoffman. I guess the main point for us is that our cities are paying county taxes to you for sheriff's contracts. They're paying taxes to us for law enforcement contracts. The law enforcement contracts are not providing for our needs. The main reason these law enforcement contracts, my understanding, was ordinance enforcement and patrol hours. We aren't getting ordinance enforcement. I mean, they'll respond to come out, but there's no enforcement. There are no tickets being written. There are no follow-up to, the issues. The other is the patrol hours. I figured out the first 4 months of this year, 60%, we get 2 hours a day. 60% of those hours were between midnight and 6 a.m. So we want presence in town, and I'm getting a lot of complaints from residents. We don't have presence during daytime hours. These law enforcement contracts over time, I don't even know how many years. I've been there 28 years. We've been contracting all this time. The needs of law enforcement have changed. So I understand the sheriff's department, their needs 28 years ago and what they are today are different. They don't have the staff to provide the daytime hours we want. There's changes, but it's not fair to my residents in Barrett to be paying county taxes and then paying city taxes for basically the same service. The rural people right now are getting the exact same service that we're getting in Barrett. We're not getting any extra special service, I don't believe. I mean, we're paying $42,000, over $42,000 a year for this special extra coverage that I don't feel we're getting. And we as a city also have a lot of other needs. That's a huge percent of our levy also. And so why should I or my residents pay extra money for not an extra service? And again, I'm not blaming the sheriff's department. I know their needs have changed, and I think that's what you as commissioners need to look at. What has changed? How were these contracts designed how many years ago? How does that fit today's needs? So I think it's time for the county to consider not having special contracts with cities and spread it out over the whole tax base. I know we're not talking numbers. I don't think the numbers will be that significant of an increase. For city people, it's probably gonna be less. I mean, obviously, the rural people will probably pick up a little bit more, but unless the contracts change that there is coverage for us, the contracts don't benefit us. They're just, right now, they're not benefiting us. I don't see daytime presence in our town. That's what people want. They want daytime presence. I understand, Jen, night patrol is good. I mean, you can't patrol consistently at all of the same things, but you have to have some presence. These kids in town need to see a law enforcement officer. We just don't see that. I mean, I sit at the corner of school. We used to get morning presence or afternoon presence when school was out. And I could tell when a cop was in town because just listening to the traffic, you hear the difference. I haven't seen any of that. I don't think I've seen it once this past year. So something needs to change. And unfortunately, that's in your hands to decide, but that's how we in Barrett feel. So.
Good.
Sue Hoffman, Janae Strunk. Mine will be pretty short and simple. So Hoffman came into this, now I won't say we were surprised, but we were happy with our law enforcement contract. We felt we were getting what we needed and we were able to pay that. We're a little bit larger than some of the other communities that were being charged the same amount. So we came in pretty happy with what we were getting. However, after learning more at the meetings, I guess we can understand why it might be a struggle for some of the other communities. And we feel that if you take a couple of those communities off, then all of a sudden the contracts don't make sense. These were put in place, I believe, when we had communities that had town cops and we had communities that did not have any law enforcement in their town. And so it seems to me like, once we've all now migrated to having the Grant County Sheriff's Office as our law enforcement, that it only makes sense to kind of look at the contract situation and see where we can, change things up. We talked about it at our meeting, and I think we feel like, I guess Scott Anderson and I talked about it, and I think we feel like, moving to the county, levy portion, that option A on that is probably where things would be best. I guess I didn't really notice that we were being taxed twice, but absolutely right, we are being, the residents in town are being taxed twice for the service. And maybe they're getting a little bit more in town, maybe they're not, that service, but I guess that's where Hoffman sits, is we recognize that there's other communities in this county that we have to kind of rely on to have these contracts, and if they're not there, or they're gonna step away from that, we gotta make a change. So that's all I have.
And then the city of Ashby, they're not on here, are they? Are they on now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Mike, you wanna give us, your thought?
Sure. Thought Scott was gonna be here, so he'd handle this, but anyway, another thing going on. So I agree with Hoffman there as far as the overall thought on everything. See, we've been happy with contract too. Scott had mentioned that the Mayor Ellingson thought that increasing the levy would be probably the most fair way to do it and keep it even across the board. My view on it is the contract with the cities makes sense if ordinance enforcement is provided with that, because I think with the city, you got a bigger population base, you should have more coverage there. So I personally don't have an issue with it going up. Everything goes up. I get that. But as long as ordinance enforcement is done, then I think it makes sense in my mind to have a contract. And it's gotten pretty good, I think. I've had numerous people saying, hey, what happened with this? It's, I don't know. I didn't handle it at all. Law enforcement took care of it. So that's kind of my viewpoint on it. And like I said, Scott Ellingson, Mayor Ellingson wants to kind of, whatever the shortfall is, he figures that actually he thinks it should all be distributed evenly amongst everybody throughout the whole county. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Is there any other towns here that we haven't? Wendell not here. Okay.
Herman's coming.
What's that?
Herman's coming.
Oh, they are, okay. So Jeff, you wanna come up here again for a little bit? City of Lake?
You want to go up there, you said? Wow. I don't know. You said you had more comments. I can go back, but
Everybody's bashful.
I appreciate you guys meeting. Yeah, it'd be good to get some numbers on, you know, if the county took it all over. But I'm trying to think of a way that the county wouldn't have to cut any positions and still make this work. The only thing that I can come up and think about, make it work, is lower the cost to the cities equitably, and then put the difference counting. So say this 342,000, that's the total of all the city contracts that we're paying right now, is that correct?
Right in there, yeah.
That's what's in the budget, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just hypothetically. Say cut everybody 50%. Well, cities 50%. And the county would take 50%. And run the numbers on that, run the numbers on the 342,000. Some numbers, we can see what the impact and Rita's right, you know, I've heard that comment a lot. That, the city people are being taxed on the count by the county through their taxes, plus they get them tax by the city law enforcement also. And that's a legitimate point. And visibility is, I hear that a lot. Well, we never see them driving along. Nobody. Law enforcement should get to know the city and get to know some of the people in there. Well, I said, well, get out of your car and somebody down, walk up and down Main Street and go into business to introduce yourself. And maybe they aren't trained that way anymore. Maybe they're not supposed to do that. I don't know. And with the society we live in today, maybe they aren't supposed to do that. You know, small cities, I think, are different than larger cities. That in that way. It's just visibility is one of the main things I hear. I don't know, we gotta be able to work this out. Split the piece of the pie. And see if everybody's under the table and agree with it. So I don't think anybody's gonna agree to the dollar amounts we're paying right now. And I don't think all the cities wanna not have law enforcement protection. You know, we're gonna still have law enforcement protection to a certain extent. That's the job of the county. But it's the little things that really shouldn't be turned into big things. The requests that the cities are making, you know, aren't that huge. You know, and you know, we've got a process, and Jen is helping with that process for unsightly premises, which is really helpful. And Lord, their officers they should be driving around covering all the streets once a week between the two of them. And they can see just right down the addresses. And that's what Jen is trying to accomplish right now. And I've seen some success in it. Because when people have issues, they call the office, they don't call you. I said, if you see a problem, call law enforcement. There are hired people to take care of this. And I think they're intimidated by doing that. They never call me. And me is gonna be the person to talk to in another couple weeks. We hired somebody to take that position July 1, even though I'm still gonna be here for months. But technically, that person's gonna be the administrator treasurer. So she will be well informed on what's happening in the city. But she's gonna sit in my chair. Because July 1st. And she's gonna do a good job. Happy with who we have hired. Very smart. She's never wrong. She's been in charge of people. Very well educated. She's a CPA. And she's good with dealing with people. So it just is. The complaints aren't just the dollars. It's visibility of big, big fix. And be involved, try to get to know people, community. And that's big in the smaller communities. And we aren't large city, we aren't even a town of 3,000 people. This, the culture is different here. And everybody has to recognize a culture. And I think it can happen. But it's gotta be given and taken by both parties. to Make this work. So. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jeff. Do any of the other cities want to come back up? Yep.
Well, I think I'm probably gonna reiterate what you've already heard, but I think you need to hear another time. Like Jeff had mentioned, it's a significant part of our budget, okay? And we realize that that's important for our city to be safe. But I don't think it's just, we can't look just at our city. It's kind of like, it is a county issue, and I think it really is something that needs to be spread across the county. Because when our cities are safe, secure, when things are taken care of, like ordinances such as like nuisance properties and things, that sometimes more than likely will eliminate some of the other bigger issues that could come up. If our cities if they don't look safe, that reduces the people that want to say, you know what, I'd like to live in this community. And so that, like I said, I think that just helps our entire county. We're too small to say that we can't, that we shouldn't work together. And the cost of it, that should be shared, because all of us benefit in the entire county. When Jeff said, presence is very important. And I also understand that probably some things happen, nefarious things happen when it's under the code of darkness, right? And people don't see if our law enforcement is driving around. But that is a physical thing they do need to see in the presence. The other thing with Elbow Lake, and we've had this discussion, and we hear that, well, that's just because you have the hospital. You have to cover those hours, and I'm not sure exactly how that's always covered. But if that cost comes back to Elbow Lake, we're not gonna divide that, and Jen has said that, you can't divide, like when someone comes in and they're from the Hoffman area, that Hoffman will be charged for that law enforcement presence that needs to be there. And we have people that come in that are not from the county that we still respond to. So I think when you think about that, I don't know that Elbow Lake should be necessarily penalized. Because we have the hospital here and the extra hours at that place. The other thing is, I think there's agency assists. And I'm not sure, Jen, where those agency assists go to, like when, if it's an agency assistant in the city, again, that's a county service that is going to some people. And again, that's county law enforcement working with county departments, and why that should just become a city responsibility for that. So I think what I guess I'm saying two things is that I see this as a county issue because we're too small. We're only a county of 6,000. That's a small city in most parts of Minnesota. And so I think if we can share that cost should be shared. And I don't think, and as we're recognizing, city residents are paying for law enforcement for the city, and they're also paying for the county, and it's like, I don't know if that's fair. We appreciate the service, definitely, that law enforcement does, but we need presence, and I think that it needs to be something that's shared across the county, all taxpayers, because we're all taxpayers. So, thank you. I know you have a difficult decision ahead, but thank you for this time.
Anybody else from the cities want to say any more? Good there. Do we have anybody from the public that wants to speak? Who would you want to speak?
I'd love to.
Okay.
Boone Carlson, I live in Wendell or Norcross, Minnesota, and I'm representing all the disgruntled taxpayers of Grant County. I think sometimes to fix a problem, we have to figure out how we got here. And of course, I was pretty young when all this happened, but somebody mentioned earlier, a lot of the towns had city police officers. And then they, time was harder to staff those police officers, right? So came up with the idea like, hey, we're gonna pass this on to the county. So one of the things I'd like us to look at is how many of those positions was each one of those towns replaced as a deputy in the office? And if it was, I'd like us to look back and say, do we need that level of service today? Because it's already been mentioned that we've had a declining population going forward. So Herman, Hoffman, Barrett, Wendell one time, Elbow Lake have police. If all those positions got replaced at the county level, I think we really need to look back and say, do we need to have all those positions replaced today? With the population decline in each town. Having issues come up like this are good because it challenges us to make hard decisions. We do need a level of law enforcement in the county. But what level do we need? And I think we really need to look at that going forward, how much we're going to be spending on having deputies in this county and challenging them and challenging us to decide what role they're going to play in the county. The cities have been paying for service because at the time it was a way to get out of having to employ the city police officer or two. They almost had to employ two no matter what, because somebody's going on vacation or night, day shift. We need to break that down and analyze it. We cannot keep an open checkbook for the Grant County Sheriff's Department in this county any longer. The taxpayers are frustrated. They're really good at handing out DWIs and speeding tickets. That's what the public perception is. We need to cut it down and cut expenses at that level. The towns spending this money for this level of service has been fantastic. Now, if you ask the town if they would rather fund their fire department or their first responders or the ambulance service, I'd like to hear their answer on that. Taking that money and giving it to that area instead of the Grant County Sheriff's Office. So going forward, with this challenge coming up with the city contracts, I challenge the commissioners to do due diligence for the rest of the county and examine exactly what level of service we need in this county. And the fire departments are important, first responders are important. Ambulance service is important, as we all know. And we need a level of a sheriff's office doing their job too. But how many people does it take to do that job? And we need to be spending the money that we're spending on overtime at the Grant County Sheriff's Office. What's the county getting, what are the residents getting in return for that, for all the overtime we're paying? Let's look at this. Let's break it down. Let's fix an issue in this county that's been sticking with us for too long. I yield my time. Thank you.
You. Anybody else wanna get up and speak? What?
Real quick, I don't have that much to add, but. What it really comes down to is, I've been on enough boards in my life too, that I know what budgeting is all about. And you make a budget, we make a budget, and right now, the 25% of our levy is more than what we wanna spend, we just can't. Now, are we getting a good deal compared to hiring our own policemen? Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned it the last time we were here. It is a good deal, you know, but just because it's a good deal doesn't mean we can live with it either. You know, it's like buying a car. I can go in there and they give me a hell of a deal on a car, and they are probably giving me a hell of a deal. My budget says, no, I can't do that. You know, and I might have to go to another vehicle with a little bit less, you know, good stuff, you know, and it's the same thing. Okay. Right now, if we continue the way we are, Elbow Lake's only option to save money is to cut back hours. You know, and we're willing to do that at this point. We don't want to, but you know, we will. And if we do that, that's gonna affect your budget again too, you know what I mean? And I think at one of the first meetings, Troy, I think Herman brought this up about, we don't wanna sign a 3-year contract. We would just as soon go year by year. Cause what if, you know, what if we decide to cut back, you know, to 5 hours, and I think Elbow Lake's got 8. You know, and then we find out, you know, maybe we needed those 8. You know, we don't wanna just be stuck with that for 3 years. It's just something for you guys to think about when you guys are trying to figure out what we're gonna do here. And I'm finding out more from her on ordinances too. And that just kind of depressed me almost, because you were just saying, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, on the nuisance properties, you know, she can go to them, she can write letters and everything, but nothing ever gets done. Then it goes back to the city to decide what we're gonna do anyway, you know what I mean? And then maybe Justin can say that, and then it goes to the court. It costs us money, sometimes it's, you know, I remember I hate to say this, but the goat guy, we had a hell of a time trying to get him done, and it cost us money and everything. You know, so when it comes right down to it, how much are you able to do with ordinances anyway? You know, so I don't know, we've talked about getting somebody else just to do that too, but we're trying to figure out how to cut, is what I'm trying to say. Just like you guys try to cut your thing, so I mean, Jen does a good job. I'm gonna tell you right now, I think, right now, just by talking to Jen, it's the best sheriff we've had for this issue. Since we signed up. And a lot of these complaints that we have needs to go to her, and it is going to her, and she's listening. But you guys need to be aware of what's going on, that's all, you know, some of the issues that we've had. And then she's doing a decent job so far of trying to help us out with it. So hopefully down the road, that'll get a lot better. But I do get frustrated, as I'm sure you do, with the law and what you can and can't do. I have people coming up to me and, you know, and saying, hey, you know, that guy's got a dirty yard, or you gotta mow, just go in there and mow the damn thing and send him a bill. You know, I don't know if that's legal or not. You know, and life isn't black and white anymore. Right? So I understand all the problems. But again, going back to us, you know, that'd be the only thing that we can do, right, at this point, if nothing changes, to save money. And just so you know that that could happen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, so I don't know that it's ever been said, you know, the county's made an offer to the cities. That doesn't stop the cities from coming back to the counter offer. And I realize that so many different entities that one can't speak for the other, but that's my view on it, is that, you know, an offer's been made. And I don't think anybody ever sitting here said we wouldn't listen to a counter offer. It's just, I get there's logistics in trying to coordinate between how many different entities to do that.
Mr. Chair. Just kind of following on what Boone said. And maybe you can remember, but I was on the city council in Hoffman back when Dwight Belotny brought the city contract to us. Remember that, Dwight? Mm-hmm. And at the time, it appeared to be a huge savings. Now, what I don't know is if the cost to operate a police department independently has risen faster than the budget of the county in total. The concern I have is if we back away from a contract that was a savings to the city and shift the cost with no changes to the ag land, which is about 77% of the taxes. Now, that's a tax shift. And if we're gonna do that, that's a decision we gotta make, or we gotta do what Boone said. Because this thing has gone full circle over a number of years. And so just backing out of a city contract and shifting it to the 77% of the taxpayers, we gotta answer them too, right, Mr. Chair?
Exactly.
But I don't know that number. If each one of our cities had continued to fund an independent police department, would the cost be higher?
I can,
Go ahead.
I don't even have to think about it, it would be way higher. We all know that, because our expenses have gone up every year, running the sheriff's office, and I understand cities' concerns with, visibility and enforcement. But those need to be granted to the sheriff. I can talk to her about that. First question I'd ask her is, you have a daytime patrol deputy that's out there during the day? And if you do, let's get them into these towns during the daytime and turn the lights on. Cause that's what we used to do. We would be in that Barrett school every morning, every night. Ashby. And so yeah, visibility is a big thing here with the deputy. And to, with Jeff's question on, can they walk up and down Main Street? You bet they can. They can do whatever they want. And, you know, if you're not out there communicating with the public, you're missing the boat a little bit. Cause that's where your informants are. You get to know those people, and then they start talking to you. Then you find out about the bigger stuff. Okay. So, but anyway, what Kenny said there, 77% of the property is owned, it's an ag land. And, when there's a shift, then it falls directly on that. If we went away from the, you know, levying for the 300 whatever thousand it is, 77% of that 360,000 would be going right on ag land. So that, and then the question is, you know, we're paying twice for taxes. Yeah, you are. But the calls are where the people are. That's where the calls are. That's where the ordinance violations are. And that's where all the calls are. So you're getting more service. There, you know, Elba Lake by far takes the most police calls in the county. Because there are more people there, there's 1,100 people there. So, but so that's what my concerns are. Yeah, the taxing twice, I've heard that for 40 years, and it's true. We pay taxes twice, but we're in those towns where we expect more, where we need more. And so, and the city ordinances, yeah, they're a problem. Because people get upset when there's unsightly premises or dog complaint. So you gotta handle them. And but then again, the cost, when push comes to shove, when that ticket gets written, then the county attorney is gonna prosecute them people, and that costs money. And they can delay things in court, you know how courts go. Delay. And then some of them don't clean it up anyway. And you gotta go back to court and do more, so you can go clean it up, which costs more money. So I understand all of those problems and thoughts that the city have. One other thing with Boone comments there, there's 11 sworn officers in Grant County now. When I started in '86, there was 2 deputies and the sheriff. But Elba Lake had 2 full-time, 2 part-time. Barrett had 1, Hoffman had 2, Herman had 2, plus some part-timers. So they're actually, body-wise, there was more cops in the county in 1986 than there are now. There was like 13 then, and now there's 11. So it's that's that issue there, but it's hard for people to understand it because I've been around for a long time and I know all of that, you know, so, but anyway. Yeah.
Herman's here.
Oh, Jeff, sorry, Jeff.
No, I apologize. I had a little
That's all right.
This stuff on my schedule this morning.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Jeff,
Well, I don't know what's been said already. The people that were at the other law enforcement meetings know, you don't have to ask me for my opinion. I think you covered a lot of it, the double taxation. The patrol hours, just the general raising in costs from the time we started our contract to now, cause Paul had a meeting today, so he couldn't be here, but Paul and I have been on the council in Herman longer than anybody, and I think these contracts started probably before we got on, but you look at what we were paying previously, and now we have less population than we've ever had. And we're paying, a lot of money for what we're getting. I think that double taxation thing, like I said, if I had a house on the golf course or Pond de Terre or, wherever, any of the lakes. It is kind of a double taxation for the thing. Like I've mentioned, I've lived in my house since 1997. I've called 911 one time since I lived there, and that was for the lady across the street. So I think the problematic properties, you can't lay that on the city. A lot of that is, you have problematic properties in the rural areas as well. We're getting a lot of feedback from our tax base in Herman that, doesn't like the way this is working right now. And I've said, I understand we are a land-based county, and that's where the property value is. And as I've said at these other meetings, I've complained about, my taxes on my house, like a lot of people have in Herman or Elbow or Barrett or other counties. And people have basically said, well, if you don't like it, go find one where the taxes are cheaper. And I kind of feel like that's when you're a land-based county, unfortunately, there is going to be a little more shift in that direction. And I think you can argue there are a lot of rural calls. I mean, I think, so you're gonna have problems in any county. Do they happen to be within the city limits, or are they in the rural areas? I don't know, but I think based on what we've seen in other counties, this is not the norm for shifting things into the quote unquote metropolitan areas or the population basis. So I don't know what the right answer is. We've had a couple of the meetings. I don't think there was any clear cut answer, but I think the general consensus from the city representation has been it's generally not like the way it is at the city level. If that's appropriate or not, but I don't know. I think that these continued contracts are going to be a real tough sell with the cities. I really do.
I can answer your question when the contract started. It started in 1991.
Yep, that was before my time by a long shot.
Yeah, so, but
And again, we've said that there's been no complaint. The law enforcement is, I think in Grant County is excellent. No complaints with the service that we're getting. But I mean, I think if all the cities just decline to sign the contracts, what are we going to stop patrolling, or are we going to shift that back to the general tax base of the county? I think is the question.
it's a good question because, if we don't have contracts, the city ordinance work wouldn't get done at all. Cause the sheriff is responsible for felonies and gross misdemeanors. But I will say this, that if you're the sheriff and you're sitting there and somebody calls from Elbow Lake and saying, somebody stole $1,000 from me or 500, it would be very, very hard to sit there and not respond to that call. Even if we didn't have a contract, but they don't have to.
But that has been stated on numerous occasions, going back to previous sheriffs. So what are they doing in other counties? Are they not? Because there are other counties that don't have, I think Stevens County doesn't have any local law enforcement now. And from what I've gathered, they're not doing contracts other than there are a couple of communities that want some specific patrolling at specific times that they're paying for. Are they not doing anything in other counties? I don't either, but we keep hearing this, that this is what our responsibility is, but are we really going to go to that level where we're not going to do any enforcement at the local level? So if I have a property in the rural area and something happens now, the deputies come. but I'm not getting quote unquote double taxed for that. So it's kind of a double standard in my opinion. You're saying you're not gonna do anything in the towns if we don't sign these contracts, but yet it does get done in the
I
rural area.
didn't say that. I said.
I know, but that's what my question is. I mean, is that really gonna happen, or are we gonna shift this over and just run the sheriff's department like it basically is right now, just with a shift in how it's being, the cost is being distributed?
Well, the biggest problem for me is shifting that fee onto the ag land. I don't think that's right. Because there's a lot less stuff going on out in the county than there is in these towns. Because there are people breathing in the town. There's like Lawrence Township out there, you might go out there 1 or 2 times a year on something. And, you know, there's quite a lot of ag land out there. So, but anyway, that's how I see it. You know, the towns should be responsible for their police protection. I'm more than willing to pay for mine up in Ashby there. I more than willing, but I really don't think that I should be taxed for Elbow Lake's problems or Herman's or Hoffman or Barrett's problem. Okay? It's their towns, it's their jurisdictions, the buildings are in their towns. And you know, that's how I see it. And it was a cost savings to these towns when they originally signed these contracts. And I'd be willing to bet, I don't know what Herman's contract is specifically now, it's like 40-some thousand maybe? How much? 42. Okay, so in 1991 with Marvin Riley there buying squad cars and all this and that. You think that levy was about 40,000 maybe?
That's another argument I dispute a little bit. Yeah, it's obviously costing us a lot less to do it than if we're getting 2 hours of service a day. I mean, when we're paying full-time or when Ashby was paying full-time or whatever, you're obviously paying less, but you're obviously getting less. So I guess the other question, you know, when we've done these other projects in the county, has anybody calculated? I understand the shift over to farmland also, but what is the actual per acre shift gonna be? I've been on the fire department for 33 years in Herman, and there are a lot of farmers that are on the fire department with me who have said, when we do fire department levies, it's like, you know what, if it's got to raise, it's got to raise. I mean, what's the actual cost per acre gonna be? It's very nominal. Obviously, our fire contracts are a fraction of what this is going to be for a cost for the year, but I think that's another valid question. I mean, we don't want to shift it over. Well, show me a number. I mean, what is the cost per acre? You know, like I said, I get that, but my house is valued at, I think, $300,000 or something like that. But that's the way things are supposed to work. I mean, if I had a quarter of farmland that was worth $1.5 million, I understand that I'm gonna be disproportionately taxed for that also. So I think, you know, there's a lot of argument to go the other way on this, you know, and I think when Doyle and Troy and those of us that have met, I think that you guys, I think, understand that there's some resistance, meaning Doyle and Troy. I don't know what I missed here, but, you know, when I was in my absence, but like I said, this is a tough sell. I mean, these small towns, I understand the county small towns are small, but you know, when you got 400 people, that's, like I said, that's a lot of shift to those 400 people versus if you take it school district by school district, adding a little more to the production ag land. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you do it in a county where the valuation is 80% in ag land. They're gonna shoulder more of the load. That's unfortunately the way it is in some cases. And we have a couple of city council members in Herman that also own farmland, and I don't know that swayed their opinion a whole lot.
When you wanna talk?
Yeah. Boone Carlson, Norcross, I think the county has been given county board has been given a very good opportunity here to address an issue here that has been a plaguing issue within the county and county taxpayers. The cities want to continue to get some service. The service is costing too much money. I think we can really look at a situation. We have 11 deputies. I think we're really looking at a situation here. We can cut that down to 8 to 9. The cities can still keep their service. I don't think the county taxpayers are gonna suffer at all. And everybody can keep rolling ahead. But I think in government, we always have a hard time cutting. We always want to go to tax. And I understand that. But lots of times you don't get given an opportunity like this where the cities are, where it's gonna go up so much money that it's gonna cost everybody way too much money. Furthermore, and this has been, I've been talking about this for 10 years before we built all this stuff around here. Our school, it's got a school referendum coming up here too. And I know as a taxpayer, property taxpayer, I want to be able to fund my school too. And as long as we keep funding all these other things all the time, it makes it harder for the taxpayers to flip the bill for all these things. And sometimes the county loses sight of that because it's not their responsibility for the school. But the responsibility is to all the taxpayers that pay the taxes. So let's buckle down, make some hard decisions. Cut staff, save the taxpayers some money, and take some burden off the towns. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we got 4 minutes, we got-
From our auditor. Ken, you must have reached out to him.
I did.
Yeah.
Can somebody read? Can somebody read that? What we got here? And I'm talking, that would probably raise the tax rate to $13 per acre. Using the value of 7,500 per acre for ag land, non-homestead tax. Non-homestead, yeah, would be 26, so. Could be anywhere from $13 for some of the ag land to $26 an acre. And I can guarantee you, those ag owners are gonna be in here hollering about some of that.
Dwight, that's not correct.
That's what?
That's not, you gotta, it's the difference. You wanna address that,
Yeah,
Chad?
Chad. Lay it out there for me.
Hold on a minute. Yeah, Ken reached out to me this morning and we're in the middle of proof and ballots and payroll, so just give me a second. So the current county tax rate from 2026 is 33.367%. Adding $350,000 to the current 2026 levy would change that rate to 34.99%. What this means is using a value of $7,500 per acre, which I just threw a number there. That was, I believe, last night at our equalization meeting, Carl kind of said that's an average. For ag land, 2026 tax, if you are homestead or in the first tier, which means you get the 0.5 rate, your tax is approximately $12.63. If we added $350,000 to the 2026 tax levy, that to $12.63 would have increased to $13.13. You guys do the math on that, it's about 50 cents an acre. Using a $7,500 value on ag land, and if you were non-homestead or over that first tier, meaning you had more than 3 million, whatever that tier is, dollars of ag land, you'd move to 1%. It's $25.26 per acre approximately. And if we added the $350,000 to the levy, that would increase to $26.24. So a little under $1 an acre. If you have a $300,000 home, your 2026 tax is approximately $1,010.22. If 350,000 was added to the increase, or 350,000 was added to the levy in 26, that would have went up to $1,049.81. So about I don't know, roughly a $40 increase on your county tax. Again, I got asked this 2 minutes or 5 minutes before your work session. It's quick estimates. I was in the middle of other stuff. Like I said, these are estimates. Don't hold me to the exact numbers, please.
Thank you for your response, Chad. I apologize for asking you so late, but thank you.
Okay, well, it's 9 o'clock, so we're gonna close this session, but I want to thank you all for coming today. And we'll be discussing this again, and we'll see how it all goes, but thanks for coming today, man, all the time. Okay. Regular board meeting in order, start left. And pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a public comment.
Sounds good.
Anybody from the public want to make any comments there? Okay, hearing none. We'll call for the approval of the agenda. Addition. Yeah, we have, a couple of additions. What were they again, Tina?
There's one addition, it's from, the county auditor, it is the resolution for mail ballot. So the resolution authorized the county auditor to appoint absentee and mail ballot board members for elections.
Okay. Okay, with that addition, I'm asking for approval of the agenda, calling for it.
So,
Okay, Troy made a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second
Okay, Doyle seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same here. Motion carried. Approval of the meeting minutes.
Did we have minutes attached to the work packet? I go right into the sheriff's office budget, I open the back.
I don't see the minutes either.
You guys, come on. Want me to read them?
Uh,
Go over next door and make copies. So they're in front of us, we gotta see them.
I didn't even think of it.
They're not in there.
Jen, what do you think? I can't email them because my laptop is black. I'm black, I don't know what's happening, so.
They check the signature and count that, project that. This is just live through the company. It's not, not the fact that, oh, okay. I just seen it was up, I haven't stopped on there. Yeah, we need your. Should be pretty big, shouldn't it? Getting, good, you? She's doing really good, she had a little long footer.
Are you sure they're not in the packet? Because when I look on my phone, I see them.
The very,
The-
is it like very, do you see them very first or what page?
Were they on the original packet? Okay,
In your email. But I had computer issues before I sent it, because it was such a large packet that maybe. But I have it.
In this one, I didn't see it. But that's okay. Just a little hiccup, big thing.
Next time, let me know before the meeting.
I will be honest with you, I didn't get a chance to look at any of this till this morning.
I did, but
I thought maybe you were gonna put a hard copy here. That's why I didn't question, I just, you know, when they just see the one of this, it's like, okay.
Thank you. That'd be something, please.
Like, motion we approve the minutes.
okay, Kenny makes a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Bill made the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Approval of the warrant. Any questions on the warrant?
I'll make the motion to. The words and acceptance.
Okay, Bill makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Troy seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Same sign, motion carries. Okay. Public Safety Committee, should Troy?
So we were. Almost $82,000 overspend on overtime. There's other additional over expenditures and it is in the sheriff's office. And a lot of those you've seen in the packet were broken down and some of it got moved out of there was communication stuff in the operation budget that I believe has gotten moved out since. The one that is concerning to me is that overtime, that almost $82,000 overtime overage. So in 25, we were full staffed except for 3 months. We were down a deputy for 3 months. In 24, we were down 2 deputies for 6 months, totaling a whole year's worth for 1 deputy, right? We spent $123,000 of budgeted 79 in 24. So we actually spend more being full staff. It doesn't click to me why that is. So I broke it down by hours, this is just for 25. We have 2 deputies on for 2 shifts, 12 hours, that's 48 hours a day, right? 17,520 hours a year. We have 9 non-admin deputies at 2,223 hours per year, 20,000 hours, 20,007 hours. If we figure those 9 deputies, we need 300 hours of coverage for vacation, sick, all the other things. So that when they're figuring out 4 overtime coverage needs, they use 240, I use 300, that's 2,700 hours a year. But we got 3,000 rough hours of deputy overtime, so we still have a full-time over 2,000 hours of additional overtime beyond those coverages. That's the concerning part to me is we really don't have 11 officers, we're running at 12.
Which means our deputies are working really hard. Really hard. And these are overtime hours that they're away from their family. And we already work 2,223 hours compared to a 2080 employee.
Hey, maybe we should start there, or maybe it's not aware that law enforcement is before any overtime, they're working 2,223 hours. It's not the 2,080 get overtime after that. Dwight probably knew that, I don't agree.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I went back and I made a spreadsheet of everybody's overtime and what it is. Whether it's covering vacation, sick time, holidays, you know, that's something that is completely out of the sheriff's roles. That's just something with the union contract. You guys set the union.
And on that, well, Jim, that's something I've brought up at the public safety and at the budget committee is that when the board agrees to things for the union, that should maybe be taken out of or asterisk or taken out of an operational budget because it's not. The discretion of whether or not the department head is doing that has been taken away. The board has said, we're gonna do those things.
Then we also have SWAT pay, we have DARE, which DARE is compensated by an opioid grant, but. So it looks like it's coming out of our overtime. But it's actually not, because we're getting reimbursed for it. The training, I can't. You know, there's so many hours that we have to have for state post. TZD, we get a grant for that, so again, it's taken it out of the overtime budget, but we're also getting money for that, so it was $22,000 that we got in 2025 for TZD. Well, you're not seeing the compensation. Incidents, we can't control what goes on, you know, I can control, like, if there's a night deputy coming on at 6 p.m. And a call comes out at 5:30, until the night guys get to that call, then the people can be relieved. Nobody wants to work extra, it's hard to get people to work extra. They're not bluffing us, they're not. We're doing a job that we have to get done, if we don't do it, who's gonna do it? Sometimes we have call-ins, court. Can't dictate if they're getting called in for court and for the union contract, which I have nothing to do with. You get 2 hours of overtime. For court, no matter what. We also have military time, which hasn't been taken into consideration in the past, and it needs to be. And then we have meetings, you know, we try to have quarterly department meetings. We also have our county attorney training at that time too, so 4 times a year. You know, we need to have meetings, we have to pay overtime for that. And then just covering open shifts, so I went through everybody's time sheet. Dispatch and deputies, every paycheck for 24 and 25, and so that's on here if you'd like to see more. Chad also got it through our payroll system. We had it print out, which looks like this, of everybody's, you know, whether it was holiday, vacation, or sick leave. So the Public Safety Committee, we've been working with the Budget Finance Committee. You know, we have a plan moving forward. So, but you know, if a call comes out, you know, like, let's just say last Wednesday's incident, you know, down in Huffman, our resources were completely taken. You know, we have a murder, you have, you know, whatever, you know. We do the best we can.
Okay. So what we're seeing here is not a lot of. Like, towards the end of a shift, we're not seeing people just working 2, 3, 4 more hours.
No, not very many.
Do any of your deputies ever, are they on call at all anymore?
There's no on call.
Yeah, you see, that's, yeah,
You're not gonna be able, I just think it's gonna be hard to put people on call for $1.50 an hour. Nobody's gonna do that.
You missed those. No, I just think so this one page here where you got the deputies coverage, and you mentioned 2,223 hours. Which is 42.75 hours a week, but if you deduct the vacation. And divided by 52, it's 40 hours a week. And I agree, they work hard. I work. But out here in rural America, there is not a lot of 40-hour weeks. So. We gotta make sure we get that number 22, 23 extrapolated down to a week. And that's the number.
We work 171 hours in 21 day cycle. 28, sorry, dispatch this way.
I don't know if what that meant to what I said.
Well, that's the number that is used is the 171, so the 22, 23 isn't what's used, it's the 171 in a 28-day period, that's what it's based off, it's not based off of 42 hours a week or, that's the number that is used to determine whether it's weekly, daily, yearly, it's that number.
So that 171,
The 28 days.
but does that equal the 22, 23?
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe the way you can enlighten everybody of why the county did this, all those cost saving measures.
Well, you know, I don't think I was the sheriff when that was put in. I think that was Langley, but I really don't know how to explain it. I know what the hours were.
Yeah.
But you can maybe, I don't.
But you'd add, I mean, if you didn't have it that way, you'd be adding another 170 hours times 9 of overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when if my recollection is correct, it was done when Elk Lake and Ashby came on board. Because now you have the full-time coverage rather than, you're gaining those additional hours without paying overtime.
And so I know back in 21 or 22, I think it was 21. The sheriff's office was, anytime that we went to training, it was always at regular base pay. And when Justin got a hold of that, he said, no, anytime that we work more than 171 hours, no matter what it is, you have to start paying overtime. So, you know, if we go back to the budgets back in 21 and 22 and 23, you know, you probably saw an uptick because they weren't paying that, you know, and if they were scheduled on paper, then you didn't pay overtime, but we got stopped and said, no, per federal law, if you work more than 171 hours in 28 day cycle, you have to pay overtime. So that was a shift because for all those years, that's what the county's been doing, but we can't do that anymore. So like for the training, you know, we obviously have mandated post-training that we have to complete, mandated yearly, every 3 years, whatever it is. So to try to mitigate those prices, you know, we started Patrol Online, that we can do a lot of our mandated policies. Our mandated post, you know, hours, we can get it done by there. But we still have use of force shooting, obviously you can't do that stuff online. So we try to mitigate as much as we can, so.
But yeah, when it goes down to hours, and maybe I didn't make it, you know, so the 48 hours a day, 365 is 17,520. The overage just on the 22-23 is 2,400 hours, and then 3,000 hours of overtime, so above that, we have 5,480 hours above. We talked about the 2,700, so we still got. And I'm not saying that it's not, we're not getting the service for it, I'm saying that is, from a budgeting standpoint, that's a lot. Cause what I see from 24 to 25 is, when we are full staff, we're actually spending more on overtime than we did when we were down.
So, Mr. Chair, I got a question. And there's a lot of numbers. But I hear, being on this board, that we really, with elected departments, you only really have one say, and that's their budget. That'd be accurate? And we do working on budget, and we do a preliminary, and then we do a final. My question then is, once we approve a final budget and we've locked and loaded that budget, is the next time that we can do anything about it the next budget, or are we responsible the day after we set that budget for the next 365 days? Because if we're not, that's not good. So when we say, well, we can't do anything until, because we set the budget. Well, wonder if Troy's numbers are accurate and it's way out of whack. Can we do anything about that?
So this doesn't answer the question, but I have asked the auditor to start in July. We didn't start in June because it hadn't been brought to the board, but starting in July, we're gonna get a budget update from the whole county. It'll have select month, what was spent this month, year to date, budget, and then a percentage. So this should never surprise us again from a year previous. So shame on me for not following that like I should have been.
And I think the numbers worked. The formulas that were made to make these budgets, you know, this is prior to my time, right? I just started. I don't think the numbers were, the formula had been updated, and so I think that's where the shortages coming from.
But it's alarming to me because we just had an hour-long conversation about $342,000, and now we have, you know, just on the payroll side of it, we have. What did we figure out here, 200 and some thousand? So I mean, we're not talking about 300, we're talking about $500,000.
So, yeah, and so like. We worked harder this year on the budget than we ever worked before. We had people involved in law enforcement with decades of experience. Our chair, one of them. Are we that far off? What did we not know last December that's now kicking us in June? Yeah, I don't know. It's just that I've been in business for 40+ years. This doesn't seem to square.
Well, I think a lot of it starts with the, you know, the budget that we approved didn't call for that much overtime. There's a line item for overtime in there. So, you know, I don't know.
But is what happening different than what we do?
I was told that the formula to make these numbers, even the regular hours, is not correct.
Your budget's wrong.
So I got a question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Jen, if you could answer this. This training list that you're talking about on the hours of doing it, you know, that isn't something yearly, right? Your post-training 16 hours, that's over a 3-year period or 2-year period?
We need 36 in a 3-year.
Is that what it is,
But we have
36?
to have, like wellness, we have to have yearly.
Yeah,
I mean, it depends on what it is, but, and they just keep coming down with more mandates, but they don't provide any more money
right.
for us to do this.
So my question is, how many times is your law enforcement officers been on overtime to do this training? The required training.
It's everybody.
See,
I
there
mean,
you go.
if
How do
I,
you control that?
if
You
I-
don't.
well, if I can provide the training, like if I can get someone to come, you know, which takes a lot, but I know that the BCA is looking at further outstating some of the training. So it can be closer, because if we have to drive anywhere, we're paying probably overnight, or, you know, which is expensive.
Yeah.
We can't, so Grant County Sheriff's Office is not really known for like, hey, we get to go to a lot of training, because we can't afford it and we don't do it. You know?
So basically what we're looking at here is,
This
this
is real.
is what it's gonna be next year too then.
This is real numbers, you know. Our guys are already working more than a 20-80 hour, you know. On top of the overtime, there's people that had more than 200 hours last year that they didn't want, they don't want it. And now that we've been short, I mean, everybody is. This is not helping morale.
Yeah, we were already, May 20th, we were already 63% spent on overtime.
Well, what's the solution to that?
Yeah, we're really cutting it, we're really watching everything.
But like when one of the deputies takes a vacation day, you're filling that shift with an overtime shift?
I have to. I mean, there has to be 2 people on. I try to pick up as many as I can, you know, cause I'm salary, so believe you me, I'm picking up a lot of shifts. Any, you know, if they're happening during the week, the weekend, I try to pick it up. If I can't, someone else, you know, has to.
Cause yes, those hours for 25, and that does not include the sheriff and chief deputy, those are the 9 hours of deputies.
And dispatch, which is 100 hours.
Yep, you have to include dispatch. No.
The numbers I was using did not, the overall, there's overtime for dispatch as well, but that was not included in the numbers that was.
Oh.
Okay.
But the numbers that I did, it's, everybody's on there.
The $81,000 overspend does include it, but when we break it down to hours, it does not. So I mean, you know, you had 5,480 hours over that 17,520, that does not include 2 more full-time officers. You know, that's another 4,9,400 hours over that now.
The longer they're here, the more vacation they get.
Yeah.
So that compounds things.
And I, like, when we're really short, you know, I ask them to please, you know, be courteous if you can try to switch shifts so we can, you know, because if you take a day off, someone else is gonna have to pick that up, you know, everybody's.
Between second vacation, you know, that could get,
And the holiday,
right, correct. Those 3, you know, caveats are something that it's hard to schedule for.
Yeah.
I would guess.
it is. Yeah.
So I got a question, Jen. So you made a comment that we had to calculate overtime on some items based on the county attorney.
Yep, so in the past, okay,
When did that commence to take place?
so I was told for years that any training was supposed to be paid at base wage. But, and it was even before I became chief deputy. Justin said, no, like if you are working more than 171 hours in a 28-day period. Regardless if it's meetings, office shoots, training, whatever, you have to pay it overtime, anything.
But we know how many hours in this difference that includes?
Well,
I put a number, a dollar amount to it, I guess.
I mean, it would. The training. Like in 25, we had 686 hours of training. You know,
And all of them were over the 171.
all of them are gonna be. Cause this training is like outwards or office shoots or, you know, and we do try to do it on your day that you're working, but. You know, we have to have extra people out there because if a call comes out. That officer's not ready.
And you said that when did this start?
I would say 21, 22,
So was that when that changed?
the 171, or when we got
The memo from Justin saying, when did that start?
I would say 21, 22, I guess, I don't.
So we're talking about a current situation in 26 that started in 21. Did I hear that right? Is that a yes?
Yeah.
So then the budget, if I'm looking at the budget, then we would have to have been wrong 5 years, 4 years. How does that affect today? Because you can't be wrong for 4 years and all of a sudden be more wrong. Okay, it doesn't make sense to kind.
You know, like. Historically, I've always been told that our budget with the sheriff's office, we've always been under. You know, we have line items in the budget, and so if we were over on one line item, somewhere else, it was picking up. We've consistently always been under, except for the last couple of years. Which,
Well, I think even in 24 overall. Yes, overall in 24, the actual, so, and that's. I think what the board has potentially fallen into is we looked at the actual of 24 was 1 million, this is the operation part, this is not communications, built any. 1,157,000, no, wait, that's. payroll. But we would be, you look at the final bottom line and you'd be under. We didn't get into the breakdown as deeply as we probably should. Now, when we look at 25, we had a number of things happen that helped keep 24 under, because we know that there was an overspend of $50,000-$60,000 in overtime, but we had no new squad cars coming in. And we just seen the bill for a squad car tear down from the old and put into the new. It's no new equipment, it's just the labor is $10,000 for one car. We had none of them in 24, we had 7 in 25.
Yeah, and so I've done a capital schedule, you know,
So,
for the last 5 years.
I think we've been looking at the bottom line and not the detailed breakout when we look at what's happened in the past. And that's gonna have to be our problem as much as anybody's, in that we looked at the bottom number said, okay, well, we didn't have 4 cars that came in 24, they came in 25 along with the other 3. So now you had everything blow up in 1 year, and that's why it looks, what is worse. Now, you could have taken some of them cars out of there, you could have had other things. You know, there was an additional, the Axon spend of the additional 60,000 wasn't budgeted. It was just approved by this board afterwards, so that drives up your overage too, right? So it's a number of things that all came to light at once. That says we have to do a better job of watching and controlling that.
But Axon did not cost the county anything in 25 because we used contingency funds, grants.
But it shows up as an expense.
Right.
I mean, so to say that the money was there already, that may be true, but it shows up as an expense in that number that said you were over by.
But it was.
But it didn't come out of the budget.
Right, that's what I'm saying, and just like the TZD and all these other things that we got money back from, it doesn't show it on our line items here, so.
It was a federal grant, safety grant or whatever that was, and then it was public safety dollars again from the state.
So,
So that backfilled that 100%.
But going back to Troy, and I hear that. But we gotta go back to 21. We have 5 years. And in 5 years, something should have floated to the surface. So we've been budgeting wrong. And always had enough funds to not have to address this. I find it hard that we can possibly be that far off in 26 in 6 months with 5 years of experience. There's something don't make sense. The math that, and it's not 5th grade math, it's more complicated. But this doesn't make sense to Ken.
Right, there's a comment online. Cause I have a question for Dwight and Jen. When did Grant County go to 24 hours per day? When did your department go to 2 officers at night?
Well, I can answer the first part of it. It never was 24 hours when I was the sheriff. It went to 24 hours when Elbow Lake and Ashby contract started.
and we used to have 3 to 4 people on at night, and now we are down to 2. So we are literally the bare minimum.
Okay. All right, so, we're a little bit past time on this subject, but the budget committee, I take it, is working with the sheriff's office.
We're not gonna solve it today, it's an update and.
Yeah, yeah, so we'll.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
But did I really get an answer? To our leadership responsibility, once we approve a budget. Is it 365 days before we get to say anything about it?
No,
Or do we have something to say about the budget that we approved? And we're gonna do something about it now? Yes or no?
we can at any time look at that budget. Because that's the control that we're obligated with.
But if we told our sheriff. This has gotta change, can she say, oh, you can't tell me that because you approved the budget. But we're not on budget.
Well, if like the sheriff says that any part that they can't do anything about, then they need to include that in their next year's budget, so that they're not over budget. But, you know, we gotta scrutinize this because I think in some areas it's probably too much, but like the sheriff said, nobody wants to take calls anymore. Well, when I was a sheriff, they were on call, I was on call. I didn't get paid, but that's fine. But there was on call, so then you're not plugging in overtime shifts and stuff, you see. It was a lot simpler back then. It's not simple anymore for what goes on. It's just like they call Hoffman the other day, that pervert from, out east Virginia drove 2,400 miles to assault a young lady down there. That took time and money to do that. And he's sitting in jail, I stake it, and we're gonna be paying for it. But it's stuff like that that goes on that not all of us know about. And, but yeah, we gotta take a look at this, the sheriff there, every month when I was a sheriff, or every 2 months, I was looking at my budget, percentage here, and this line item, percentage here. What are we gonna do about that? You know, if we're, and like Jen said, if they're over, like we'd be over in our jail budget in the meth years, because we had dozens and dozens of defendants in jail over 4 years. So we were over there, but well, we're under here, so, but we'd come to the board, tell the board, look, we got all these guys in jail. And so we would communicate with the board on all, overtime and, money issues within our budget. Cause that's the only control that we have. The elected officials, they can run their office. We can't tell them, you can't arrest that guy for DUI, or you can't arrest that one, but you can take that one. We can't do that. And I mean, we shouldn't do that. But the money part of it, that is our responsibility, and that the elected officials, they'll do it. They should be communicating with us when they're having an issue with that budget.
Thank you.
But we can look at that budget, and we should look at it all the time. Okay. So on that issue, we're gonna move off of that, and we're gonna go into the boat and water grant and work plan. Sure.
Alright, so it was brought to my attention that our buoys are very, very old, and we need to start doing some updates, so I reached out to the Department of Natural Resources. They were willing to provide like a grant to help us pay for these. So it's based off of any water patrol hours that we might put in, buoys, any calls that, you know, require us to be out on the water. And so they did provide us a grant for $1,500, $1,586. And so I did complete the application. I just need a signature from the board and to accept it. So I'm thinking for the next 3 years that we would update our buoys like 3 or 4 a year. As long as we can always go back to this boat and water. This is a state grant. Just that, which will help us pay for the buoys that we have to put out, so.
Mr. Chair, I got a question. Jen, is that 1,586, was that last year, same number?
No, it changes.
That's what I thought,
It- it's
because I've seen
very-
it for years.
Yeah,
It was more than that.
So they pay on ICR's contacts and stuff.
yeah.
Okay,
based on
so
water.
they've restructured how that's taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay, I do have one question, Sheriff, on that. Who set the buoys? Did you set the buoys this year?
Kenny and Jordan did.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
So unfortunately, we did have an individual that was new to law enforcement. We sent him to the school for boat and water patrol. But he has left law enforcement.
Hmm.
So, we're not gonna get a lot of patrol hours this year because we just, but we do settle the buoys. Yeah, and if a storm happens, we have to go find them
And the boat's ready to go,
and the boat's always ready to go. Yep, ready for, if we have a call, we gotta go, so.
okay.
Do we need a motion to approve the grant or not?
Yes.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Troy. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, Maya?
Let's get you guys back on track here. Good morning. Just coming with a couple of, contracts, so. The law enforcement generator, the new one that went up with the new building, we did not have a service contract on that. And so we have a contract already in place for other two generators, and this would just be an additional contract for that generator that's new with the law enforcement building. In addition to that, the elevator that services the law enforcement building, we had gotten, I think I brought to you maybe a couple months ago, they were gonna start charging us $100 a quarter for our elevator service contract for fuel charges. They only come to us once a year. And so I thought that was a little extreme to charge us $400 a year for one visit a year in fuel charges. So I reached out to them. We did not have a contract for the elevator in the law enforcement center yet. So they were able to keep our, the contract that you have. It didn't break out the numbers very well, but currently we pay about $215 a month for the courthouse elevator contract. They were able to keep that. That's actually at $214 going forward, or $250 or $25.68 per year. And the law enforcement came in at the same price. So basically it would be continuing our courthouse contract as it is, actually $1 cheaper, and adding the law enforcement contract as well. So that is the two items that I have for you this morning.
Okay,
So this a monthly, so it's prorated for 26.
We pay a yearly rate. I think it starts as of June 1 or July 1. And then it would go, we would pay that upfront per year. So we pay the $250 or $25.68 for each one.
But it's not annualized January, so
It
we're not
is.
paying for more than we're getting in.
No, it's annualized, but I think it would start now.
Okay.
With that contract, so. And if you look in the contract, if you dig through it, it says there's a month charge and an installation fee for this. That stuff has already been taken care of, so that is not in the contract. It's simply, there's a $14 per year charge for that Max, their monitoring system, and a $200 per year or per month charge for the actual service contract for the inspections and those items.
do we need two separate motions here for these two contracts?
No, I would, that's up to you if you'd like to do it separately per building, or if it just would be with the one contract. It'll all come on one, and we'll just divide it out here.
Okay, well,
I wanted a motion to approve the generator contract and the elevator maintenance contract.
okay, Troy made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Doyle made a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Conditional use permit. Hey, Reed,
Morning, guys.
how are you?
Good yourself?
Good.
So what I have before you is there's a packet from our PAC meeting the other day. Black Silos, which is owned by Tom and Jenna, they have been kind of operating a little rental place. They have two renovated silos that they put some reinforcements and doors in and painted, and then they have a couple little shed there that is kind of like a boutique where they got coffee cups and sweatshirts and that kind of stuff. And then they have a bathhouse with a bathroom and a shower, and then they're looking to add, like you guys had approved, their liquor license last month. So they're looking to add that liquor store piece. So with all that, they met the threshold for needing a conditional use permit to operate their little rental place there. So they came to the PAC and went through that, and PAC approved their permit to recommend to you guys. So there was no concerns really from the PAC, just because they're really a very small scale, and there would be almost no impact there in Stony Brook around the Angle Lake stuff. There's only two little huts, so I'm talking half a dozen folks at a time, a dozen maybe. So, and then the neighbors and the township both were at the meeting, and they had no issues or no nothing at all. So, and a couple calls we got too from the public were the same. They were just asking about the lake. So,
Okay, we need a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair, for the conditional use permit number 264-026-401.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Doyle made the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you, Reed. Okay, Tina.
Hello. Okay, first thing I have is Grant County needs to set a cannabis, temporary cannabis event registration fee. And Jared from Public Health is with us today, if you want to join us. When the temporary cannabis committee met, we discussed what that fee should be, and Jared, you can maybe describe for the commissioners the framework of how the fee can be determined.
Yeah. So there's not as much language around this, being the temporary cannabis event versus the other license, but we decided to keep it similar to what we're charging for the other licenses, which some of the state statute languages, the local unit of government, they charge $500 or $1,000 depending on the license type. We're up to 1/2 of the applicable renewal license fee. Since at the state level, the renewal license fee or the initial license fee is $750. We would then be charging $375.
$375 is what the committee.
So that's what we would add to the.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. So what changes were made down at the state on with cannabis and the standard of, grow operations, micro, mezzo, things like that, whether it's they're, some type of a temporary event, you know what I mean, and things like that. What did happen down there? That's gonna reflect back on us.
So I know things are constantly changing with the state as they, try deal with federal regulations and certain things, but I know some of the most recent changes is just allowing businesses to be more flexible when changing and attaining different license types. So nothing too pertinent to local governments and their involvement.
Okay.
They did change how they classify some of the growing stuff. They changed like micro and mezzo, some of the definitions that they tweaked a little bit.
Stuff that they permit, correct?
And stuck some other permit stuff with if you're gonna grow in an operation outside, inside, they changed a couple things with that. Which impacts planning and zoning a little bit, but not with how our ordinance is set up, so.
Okay, thank you.
So when we approved the ordinance, we knew we still had to do some work on this temporary event registration. And so the first order of issue is for the board to approve that fee. So if somebody does make application, what that fee would be, so the committee is recommending $375 for a temporary cannabis event registration fee, and that, if approved, would get added to our county fee schedule.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Ken makes the motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Troy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Then the next item, involving the cannabis temporary event registration is the application and the process itself. So the committee met with public health. We went through the documents that were included in your board packet. And so, we feel that they're good where they're at. So we would be looking to the board to approve that application that was in the packet and the process that was outlined and how someone would apply or register to hold a temporary cannabis event in Grant County.
So Troy makes the motion. We have a second.
A second.
Second by Bill. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried.
Is there any other questions for public health or?
Thank you.
Jared.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. You're always helpful. You're a good man.
The next item is, the Barracuda renewal license. That is our county email protection license. It's an annual license, and the cost for that annual license is $8,779.50. And so included in your packet with the agenda request form was the quote for that from Morris Electronics, but this is what we use to protect our email from cyber incidences.
Is this like a package that we have to buy 150? We don't have 150 emails, do we?
I don't know what our total number is. I would have to double check that, but there's more than you think, just because.
Right,
Yeah,
there's. But I mean, it may be a package in that you can't buy,
mhm,
can't buy 103, you have to buy 150.
right. I do not know the answer. I'd have to research that. This is what the county purchased last year to cover ourselves.
And that was the same price tag?
I don't know that question for sure. I didn't look back.
I will make a motion approving the purchase of up to 150.
Okay.
And if that's what we gotta have, that's what we gotta have. Let's get that answer first.
Up to 150. Okay, do we have a second?
There.
Second by Doyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
The last thing I just want to update the board, is that Extension hired a summer intern, a local, person from Herman. And we tried to get him, going with his laptop, and the laptop that we had for the summer intern position was so outdated that none of our stuff would work on it. So, we did some looking through our inventory, didn't find anything that they could use, so I did get a quote from Morris Electronics for just a general laptop for our summer intern. That cost is $1,031.25, all set up. And so that has been ordered, and Extension has been made aware that that will be coming, and that is a county computer, so we'll have that back in our inventory when the internship is up. So I just wanted to update the board.
Okay, thank you.
And Cecilia's been made aware of all
Yeah.
that, okay.
Okay, well, we've got 3 minutes before our next work session. So.
Get a rainbow. Thanks.
What was the date?
Just got it. 9/28.
No, but I mean, what was either the meeting, she went there, the meeting.
Thursday, between 10 and 2.
This Thursday.
Yep.
Guess we'll make it work. Down in Lowry.
I would guess, that's where I gotta zoom it. Well, enough, how about a zoom then?
I don't, she's never done one.
Oh, yeah.
Is she?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can't walk in there for 10 minutes and then that's the end of it, and drive back here. 62 miles down there. We're cutting costs, we should be cutting it on the commissioner level too, if we can.
2 miles for.
Well, I'll read it back. Yeah, 15, 20 minutes and then we'll be right back.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock, so, we're gonna drop into a work session here. And I have to read the script again, right, Tina?
If you would like.
Yeah. It's the same setup as the previous one, but, this work session is on county park ordinances. This is an opportunity for the full board to discuss county park ordinances. There will be no discussion other than other items at this work session to ensure there's an appropriate, opportunity for the full board to talk specifically about law enforcement. Well, that's a little bit different feel there. It's on that page here, okay. Okay, you must stand up at the podium to speak, state your name, where you live, and who you represent, state your comments regarding county parks. Each person that wishes to make a comment will have up to 3 minutes at the podium. After 3 minutes, the next person can come up. If time allows, second opportunity will be available. No action will be taken at this work session. There will be no poll or straw poll vote taken. Discussion will start with a review of current ordinances for your county attorney. Justin?
Okay, so, in your packet, you have the ATV ordinance, the Pine Ridge Park ordinance. I know that there has been some discussion regarding Pine Ridge Park and what the county can do with that, so you have the best DD from the DNR as well. You know, which indicates that if it ceases to exist as a Pine Ridge Park, it reverts back to the state. In other words, you can't convey it. And then, as most of the discussion, you know, primarily centering around, you know, what to do with the parks in terms of hunting. Tina also included, you know, a hunting ordinance from Crow Wing County, and then a policy from Mille Lacs County. Whenever you decide to do it, it'd be my recommendation that it be done by ordinance. You know, ordinance is your legislative power to enact something that is punishable by law. Policies are not. So the current breakdown, so the ATV park ordinance was initially approved with hunting not being allowed at any time within the park, and was subsequently amended a couple months later to allow hunting in the park, but only from November 1 through April 1. The 2017 Pine Ridge Park ordinance, although it's called the Pine Ridge Park ordinance, the language here is not limited to that. Seems to indicate that all Grant County parks are game refuges, and you know, no person shall hunt in there. They can fish, and that's about it. You know, and this all comes on the tail of, you know, the board's decision not to do anything that would alter, you know, what sort of firearm you can use to, you know, take animals during hunting season. So things have changed. There's been some inconsistency within your ordinances, and I just wanted to discuss what it is that you want done.
And then in addition to that, I would add, last year in 25, there were some people here, about Pine Ridge Park and archery only hunting. So that would be considered in the discussion too.
Right. So any question on the background? You know, you'll see that, the Crow Wing County, it applies, you know, globally to parks, to county managed property, to county owned property. And I don't know if you want to make those distinctions, because we do have property out there.
The idea is to try to clean it up, so either we have separate ordinances and they're what the board wants them to be, or make one ordinance that encompasses everything. But the archery conversation that comes up, I believe archery season starts September 1st. And if we're going to follow the, you know, public notice and public hearing for ordinances if they're amended or rewritten. There is a timeline and dates that we have to meet to do that. And another decision that the board will need to make is if there is any amendments to the ordinances or new ordinances written, do you want to use the planning commission and planning advisory commission, or is the board gonna take this on?
Well, I don't think it'd be a dumb idea to let the planning commission get it started, you know? But am I getting this right that, it's gonna stay archery only in Pine Ridge?
Well, it's,
I mean.
Well, currently, it's not, there's no hunting allowed.
Correct.
We would have to install an archery ordinance. We said we wanted to do it, but we haven't done it.
So when we talked about that, was that before the hunting season last year, or was it?
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I think it was just before.
Just before?
But if you're gonna designate, that ordinance to state that you can bow hunt, then you bow hunt around the campers plus, across the lake, how do you designate an area? I mean, other than, give it a description or something, or how would that fit?
the current ordinance, I know there was discussion in October about this as well, about signage. So current ordinance reads that public entry of each park, which again seems to make the Pine Ridge Park ordinance an ordinance of general application. County game refuge, no hunting permitted. Such sign shall be posted around the boundaries of the parks at intervals of not less than 400 feet. Sign shall be at least 12 inches in diameter with black letters upon a white background. Now we can go on. Setting up in our gravel pits and those are all discussions for the board.
Well, the first thing I would say is probably take out that requirement of posting it every 400 feet because they're not. And I don't anticipate that we're gonna do that.
To Bill's point, if you wanted to, you would have to have some signage if you're going to segregate portions of the park that are open for hunting and other portions that are not.
As someone from Beaumont, I don't anticipate anybody setting up on the east side of the park and the pine trees.
Yeah, but I also saw a guy out in North Dakota who had a donkey on the top of his pickup because he thought he shot a mule deer, so don't give everybody credit. Was it dope?
Well,
I think there's already people that hunt in the back of the park.
I know there is. Right? They don't.
Because their land goes right up to it.
Well, and I think one of the first questions is, do we want to keep two separate ordinances or do we want one? Because right now, the two ordinances that we have
Contradict each other.
a little bit.
Yeah. So, and you can have special carve outs for, if the ATV park is gonna have, different hours than Pine Ridge Park, or, the problem is if you see another park coming down the way, then, it's gonna have to be amended.
But you're talking one ordinance with carve outs, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, if you decide that there's gonna be no hunting, then there's no carve out for hunting.
If we do any changes, we're gonna have a hearing, correct? Or can we change it today?
No, you'd have to go through.
The hearing process.
Yeah.
Yeah, no same people will be here that want to. Yep, yeah, and that's good. So I'd say one ordinance and let's build it the way we want it for.
Right, work session, so we're not deciding it.
Yeah.
And other properties. Are we gonna address that in?
That again is entirely up to you.
I think if we're gonna just have one ordinance, we should have one ordinance that addresses that. Yeah, that's what I was, yeah.
So I think we should, kind of hear from Reed too, as far as like, if the board chooses to use the planning advisory commission. Hear from him kind of how that would work or where you're
Yeah.
at with workload.
My only question is, so Justin, in those ordinances, it say who is that administrator of those, but say the board is? Or is that something where you're gonna do kind of all the drafting and then just bring that to like a planning commission work session type thing where you present all that to us and we go back and forth and then later do a public hearing and you'll present that, or who's set up to do all of that?
So,
Who's set up as the enforcement entity of either one of those ordinances, but those are the two big players that need to be part of it for sure.
so. The closest that the Pine Ridge Park ordinance gets is that. Any person violating provision of this ordinance shall be judged guilty of misdemeanor. So that would suggest that it's law enforcement. And any person violating any ordinance, any provision of this ordinance may be expelled, ejected, or ousted from a park at the discretion of a law enforcement officer or department employee. Which is as clear as mud.
Yeah. So,
Because. We have a sheriff's office. We don't have a sheriff's department. A department would suggest or infer something that is. Not elected.
so my thought would be to include both like the sheriff's office and facilities that they manage the parks. If you're gonna have whoever admins that side too of the parks, whatever office that is, If you come up with drafting and those folks review, those folks are gonna have to work with that ordinance, they should know what it is, know the things.
Under the ATV park. The sheriff's department and or the Grant County Board shall have authority to close areas of the park to the public for construction in the park. Prevent access to dangerous areas, protect seedlings and plantings. For maintenance purposes and for natural disasters.
So for both those ordinances, those are kind of things when you put together, then we should clear up to make it clear as Walker, Chris, Jim there that.
Right.
Here's who does what, here's who enforces, here's who admins it, here's how all that works.
You're addressing enforcement, you talked about. Maya's department, but that, to me, they shouldn't really be in the enforcement piece.
They're not the enforcement piece, but they do manage the park, they operate cleaning, they handle the garbage pieces, they handle all those other things.
Right, I didn't know if you meant.
No, the sheriff's office should still stay as the enforcement piece to me, but maybe there's a tap maybe that to that DNR or the natural resources could also help with that. If you have somebody who shouldn't be there or along those lines.
But if we're talking about one ordinance for all county property, are we including gravel pits, which would now be under highway and mining?
Yeah.
So.
Does that just say that if let's just say I'm out there and I'm mowing. And somebody is in violation of this ordinance, I have the right to tell them to leave? Or do I have to call on, like, if that says or department, then that, what it says to me is if highway's in a gravel pit and they see you in there, they have the ability to tell you to get out.
Right.
Is what that ordinance says, but is that how you want it to read?
Well, I wouldn't have a problem with it saying you have the ability to say that, you're violating the ordinance, you should leave. But it's not an enforcement in that you're not gonna arrest them.
Right. You would rely on law enforcement to take any steps out of it, just like with our planning and zoning one, if we don't feel safe or taking our property because it's not safe for us, we would have them come with us, or DNR as well, and then follow through.
Or if somebody has violated the terms of the shoreline ordinance. Historically, law enforcement has signed those complaints. Because. They have to be the complainant.
So to me, that, like, when we talk about the hunting aspect of it with firearms, The difference for the ATV park is that's closed, other than hunting from November first to April first, right? So it's not a park that's open to go.
Right.
Yeah, I would advise you against having a park open when people are out there shooting everything.
So what would you advise then as far as archery at Pine Ridge Park?
You know, I don't. I think it depends, what the occupancy is, or, do people, are there areas out there where people are gonna set up a portable deer stand that people also are gonna be walking through the trees?
It's possible.
One other caveat is, there's, as far as dwellings out there, it's a 500 feet setback from any dwelling or anything like that, so. Say that, the picnic area and things like that, that might be close enough where you can't even hunt because of the raft property.
But I think, Bill, that's with a firearm though.
Nope, that's bow too.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. That's from what I read. It's because you got people with crossbows. It ain't just archery anymore.
Maybe you could open it to the lawnmowers.
Yeah.
Sheriff's office, so that's now go check for a hunter for a longbow or a whatever you specify.
Okay, Robin Hood.
I will say that most bow hunters probably aren't gonna set up in there when there's campers in there. Because they don't like any noise at all, they're pretty fussy about that.
But if there's something that got chased out of the area and went running right through the middle of that thing, you think they're not gonna shoot at it if they have the ability? They will.
Does it have to match the actual hunting season, or can you set it like after Thanksgiving or after muzzleloader, or does it have to match the exact start date that Minnesota says?
No, I would assume no.
So you can make it late season when there's no campers if you wanted to.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people at Paul Beach and stuff like that that are camped in that place.
Oh, yeah, I
get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the other side, you can close it from November first to April first to match your other park. Then your parks are aligned.
But what do you do when the early bow season starts?
You just don't make any hunting allowed until November first on any of them.
And do the signage all the way around it.
Well, I would say that we take that out, because we're not gonna go do it, let's be honest. Just put a sign at the entrance of the parks. That states what our rules are. Parks are closed from November first to April first, hunting is allowed while park is closed.
So that no bow hunting for the first. September 15th through November 1st.
Hear from the people who elect you.
Yeah, they'll be squashed on that. I personally, I don't see an issue with it. If they're bow hunting on September 15th. There's campers in there. Those bow hunters aren't gonna set up over there by those people, but.
Justin, that's so you could just have a map at the entrance that shows where all the camping is allowed, and then this other portion, there's no camping because it's open to hunting from A to B. Like a carload or a call out specifically for that.
Doesn't prevent anyone.
It doesn't prevent it, but most folks, are gonna abide by that. You're always gonna have the folks that do what they want, but have the number on there to call whoever, sheriff's office or enforcement, and say, hey, there's somebody, blah, blah, blah. Just like now, there's suspicious folks at the campground. So the board intend to have this by September 15th. That means somebody, I assume Justin's gonna have a ready drafted road to have all that stuff worked out, then to the pack, then to you guys by then. It's a very tight timeline turnaround.
It goes into effect on an X date, and it's October 1st, and you miss 2 weeks.
And I think bow hunting would be starting right around the 15th of September.
It's usually the Saturday closest to the 15th.
Yeah. So. We got time to get her done. So.
And I have no problem with saying we're gonna start bow hunting when it is and leave it open year round as it is now.
Yeah, that's what I'd wanna see. One ordinance covered both of them. And, can't the other county properties just, do we need an ordinance for our gravel pits and stuff, because people ain't
Only
there
if
anyway?
you want to exclude certain activities.
Well,
We just put it in like exclusions, no hunting and county gravel pits, mine, whatever you want to describe those properties as, are only allowed in this park and this place.
That is otherwise provided.
Yeah,
herein.
or some kind of-
technically, isn't it trespassing now to just go out there?
We heard that no one gets ticketed for trespass.
No, I know, but technically.
But it's a mining area, so actually it's illegal for less authorized personnel. NIMSHA kind of weighs in on that.
You know, it's also illegal to hunt standing crops, but do you know how much blaze orange you see in sunflower cornfields in southwest North Dakota?
Baiting.
They're all doing the same
Baiting is
thing.
completely legal in North Dakota.
Aiding and abating.
And Reed, you're willing to help us out a little bit on that?
Yeah. Should be a big deal. There's gonna be some timing things, or if we have to try and do special meetings, we can.
Yeah.
Preferably, it's much easier to do them on kind of the scheduled meeting dates, just from a scheduling stuff, but if we need, we can adjust.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a little something to add. With us moving to rifle, you're gonna see more people in the county that don't live in the county in this area. I would just about, throw $100 bill bet on that. So we gotta have some type of notification and signage or something. Just my thought, that's.
Okay. Justin, do you need anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so then, well, we're 7 minutes early, but we can call a close to this work session then on county park ordinances. So thank you. Okay. Ashley, you want to start a few minutes early?
Well, I am here, we have VSO applicants, scheduled to interview this week and next week. And so wondering, I know last board meeting, you had talked about narrowing it down between 4 and 8 or 4 and 7 applicants to interview in front of the full board. The next board meeting is not till July 7th. So my question is, do you want to schedule a special board meeting, or do you want to interview? I don't believe we narrow it down to, let's say 4. I think we could do it at a regular board meeting in the afternoon, but if, let's say we have 7, I don't think we'd be able to get it done in the afternoon. So question is, if you want to schedule a board meeting, special board meeting before the 7th and wait till the 7th, that is still 2.5 weeks away. Our last interview is scheduled, our last day of interviews is scheduled for the 23rd.
And how many are there again?
15.
You've done 14.
Oh, you haven't done any.
We haven't done any. This week, we
Oh.
interviewed this week.
Well, I thought you said the last one was.
The last day is scheduled for the 23rd.
So you have no idea on the number we made.
Okay.
And I would note to the board that July 7th and July 21st, the two meetings in July, those afternoons. We have the agencies requesting appropriations and tax levies coming to meet with the board. So again, depending upon the number, those afternoons might not work. So it might be a special board meeting.
And I wanna also note, I wanna be mindful on training time, because we're still looking at that August 1st, date for RAP to be done. So we have the month of July for training.
Looks to me like we're gonna have a special meeting probably. So I see it.
It'd have to be after the 23rd.
I would say July 1st or 2nd would work best for me.
Work for me.
July 1st, Ken? Or 2nd?
First.
Yeah. That would work best for me. Thursday, they're not working. How about you, Bill? You working?
Yeah,
Doyle?
probably work.
I don't think it matters.
4 o'clock on the 1st. Okay, July 1st?
What, you wanna start?
Well,
What time?
why not? We might as well start at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
If we got 7 of them, we're gonna still be here. Late in the afternoon.
Start at 8:30.
Yeah, we can have a work session. You wanna do that? 8:30?
Maybe those people can't show up at that time.
I can't get someone to come at 8:30. I feel like.
Okay.
I imagine it'd be an issue.
Anybody else got any discussion on that? Okay, Wednesday, July 1st at 8:30. We'll be interviewing right here then, Tina. Okay. That's quite a bunch of applicants, and that's for sure. Glad to see that. Okay,
We have the addition to the agenda.
yeah. And that was,
Chad, are you still on the meeting?
that was for the voting, right?
Yes. Chad, are you still with us online? All right, well, you guys got the information. I sent it out when I sent you the warrants. Looks like it's called the absentee and mail ballot board resolution. Looks like he would like the board to adopt the resolution authorizing the auditor to appoint ballot board members.
Were you guys asking for me? I was out of the office.
Yes, yep, we were just gonna do your agenda request. So I don't know if you wanna explain to the board what it is. They got the resolution in the packet.
Yeah, we talked about it last night, didn't we? Is
Yes,
there more questions?
How have we done it in the past?
What?
How have we done it in the past?
I've come to the board each year that we have elections, and you guys have approved the list of people that are being appointed to the ballot and the mail ballot boards. This would give the authorization for me to appoint them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll call for a motion to that effect. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Bill made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Doyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Chad. Okay. Budget committee updates. Well, budget and finance, Troy and Bill.
Well, we got a meeting this afternoon.
We have lots of meetings this afternoon.
Yeah.
We're starting department budget meetings this afternoon.
Okay. Building committee, Troy and Bill.
Think we're up to speed on with what Maya had brought to us, right?
Yeah, there's some contracts that we updated and then, that's really the main items that we were going over.
Focusing on.
Okay. EMS committee, Bill and Dwight. You know, you got in, just give them a spiel on what we did.
Throw it out there.
There was a committee meeting and we discussed the Sprint paramedic truck to be added to the local Sprint paramedic plan with the capital schedule. And so did a little research and reached out to the county attorney to draft a legal document that will help aid the county in moving forward with the appropriated funds when they're used to purchase ambulances, about first right of refusal, and just to kind of button up the legal aspect of how that would work. And so when we get that agreement, that draft agreement, and the plan updated, we will come back hopefully by July 7th board, if not the next meeting in July. And then when we do that, the committee asked Senator Rasmussen to come and maybe speak about it, since he was part of the legislative pilot program that started this statewide. And so more to come in July at one of the two meetings with those draft plans and draft agreement.
Okay. All right, personnel committee.
VSO interviews starting later this week.
Okay. Highway committee. Bill,
I got
an
an
update.
I got an email from our engineer. And start with, on the maintenance side, finished patching on Casal 5, 8, and 14 to get them in the best shape possible prior to the seal coat, which is the chip seal that's been planned. Half of the staff are out mowing ditches, the other half are blading and re-graveling roads. More patching and culvert repair will happen after mowing is completed. On the construction site, east abutment has been poured on the County Road 52 bridge, which would be Harrison Bridge, the north end of the lake. Currently switching operations to switch to work on the west abutment, which is one side of the other, so they gotta go around. They did not actually put where they can let the river go around them while they're working. They decided to sheet pile and dewater and pour concrete, so I was out there and actually it looks pretty good. Okay, seal coat project will begin in mid-July. And CASA 20 resurfacing scheduled to begin around August 1st, which CASA 20 goes north of 4, clear to the county line. Okay, what else we got? Other items of note, and there's nothing there, so apparently there was nothing there.
Okay. All right, public safety committee, Troy and Doyle.
I think that we're over it now.
We had an update, yeah? Yeah, okay, I guess we did, didn't we? Yeah, solid waste committee, Ken and Troy.
We didn't meet last one.
Okay. Strategic planning committee, Troy and Ken. We didn't meet either.
No, we met Dr. Sean about his plan,
Okay,
when he decides to transition.
I think one of the consensus probably for the boards that he's truly aware and concerned about succession, and I felt probably a higher level of comfort after listening to what his strategy is, and I think we're in pretty good hands with where we're at right now. So Mike, would you agree with that, Tina?
So I thought it was a good meeting about what IT is currently in Grand County, what the future of IT, might look like in Grand County, and we're on a good path. Things are working well now, and he's very open to, talking about that transition when it's time.
okay. Horizon Public Health, we met
Monday, last Monday.
June eighth, yeah. Angie was in charge, she ran the meeting and did well. And her two new assistants, were there. So yeah, so Ann's gonna stay on, she'll be done like July 1st, I think. But, then they were, in the process of taking interviews on, financial person. And, they made an offer to one of them and, what I was told is that person accepted, so we'll see who that is, pretty soon here. Okay, Western Prairie. Who wants to speak on that? We were all there.
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there. Well, that's right, you guys weren't there. We weren't all there. Well, we went over some things, but I'm not sure what it all was. It was the same stuff.
A lot of it targeted SNAP.
Yeah.
And where we're headed and the revenue that comes from the state and all that's all structured. And our district meeting up in Fergus, you know, with AFC, they come with a brochure and there's questions that were asked about that brochure and where we're headed from there, so.
And I think the biggest piece for the local governments is when budgeting for 2027. The budget, if I understood it correctly, the cost shifts that are coming in 27, we have to budget for and plan for 1 quarter.
Well, so now. So HR 1. The federal government is cutting their administrative cost share that the county's gonna have to pick up 25% of the administrative cost share that's not being funded anymore from the federal government. So it follows their calendar year. That starts right now in 26. There's another 25%, I believe, that the federal government will no longer fund come October 1 of 27. So it is another quarter, but it's not just starting in October of 27, it's increasing. So it's actually starting this year.
And then 28,
Good.
when you budget for 28, then you'd be planning for a full year of it.
Yes.
But that legislation on the federal level, when we get through the midterm elections, that could be subject to change. Just because it's out there now, that doesn't mean it's, you know, concrete.
Right, it could get worse.
It could get worse, it could get better. We don't know that.
So there's, well, and then there's, so budgeting also is, so that's the cost share part of it, and then you have the error rate when we get into 27. That the state puts some in for administrative, but it doesn't cover what the cost is. And then there's the error rate where there'll be penalties, and that's out of our control because the state gets fined as a whole. And we would never exceed the error rate, or we never should, but we're still gonna get penalized because the state does. And the state didn't pick up any of that. Okay, so there's huge expenses coming just for SNAP, and then you can throw in other. There'll be a more detailed list of that to come. Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd like to go back and, I don't know if it goes to public safety or to budgeting or what, but historically, we've just gone along with the cities will eventually sign the contracts, and sometimes it drags into January, February. And I don't think we should do that this year. I think we should be prepared by preliminary levy time to cover the cost, because I don't think we're gonna have a contract signed. So that's my feeling on this. We have to have that plan. We don't necessarily have to execute it, but the plan has to be in place to cover it by the end of September when we set our preliminary.
Yeah, so that dollar amount needs to be put in the general. Is that what you're saying? Or
Maybe the cities come back with, I mean, yeah, we need to have a plan, whether it's development or cut, or we need to have something in place by the end of September. We can't just hope they get signed as we have in the past, because I don't think that's gonna happen.
Just to follow up to it, right? I know you people have worked hard on this. But I don't think we should focus only on the city contracts, but rather on the budget and how the operations are. Cause that's really where the proof is in the pudding. It's not in the 342,000. We might think that ain't it.
Well, and when I said the financial, I mean, it's more than the 342. Look at the expense side too, and you're looking at more closer to $500,000.
Okay,
I just wanted to put that on everybody's radar, so we don't get into September and.
okay. All right, anything else today? Okay, then I'll adjourn this meeting at 10:41 AM. Thank you.